Hey everyone, this is David Brown with the migration update for May 31st, 2023 from the Braddock Bay Hawk Watch. I know this looks like modern art, but this is the view out over the lake from the Charlotte Pier before sunrise this morning. And at sunrise, there was some dredging work going on, and this tugboat brought them another barge. We didn't really have any unusual birds, but I did take a photo of this mallard that had a nice reflection in the water. Afterwards, Kim and I went to the Braddock Bay West Spit, and we actually picked up 3 yearbirds there. So first time we've picked up that many new birds in one spot in a long time. As we were walking in, we heard the trumpeting of 2 trumpeter swans, and we had seen some reports that these birds were around, but we hadn't been able to track them down ourselves. So for trumpeter swans, you're looking for that really long bill. So it's a completely black bill that's really long and sloping. Let me give you a brief summary of swans in this area. So there's a lot of mute swans. They're just resident. They don't migrate. It's an invasive, non-native species. They're the ones that have kind of a black face and an orange bill. So almost all of the swans you would see in this area right now are mute swans. Now, probably the most numerous swan we see, especially throughout the Hawk Watch season, are tundra swans. They migrate through in big groups, sometimes flocks of 100 or more, and on a day you can get up, a couple hundred, maybe even up to 1,000 on a really good day. But they migrate through at the beginning of the season. Mainly, I would say the first couple weeks of March is the peak time for those. So they're long gone. We don't see tundra swans at all this time of year normally. Trumpeter swans like these, there's very small numbers that are around at different times of year, and there's even some nesting records from the region now. But this is the rarest of the 3 swan species, so really cool to see some out on Braddock Bay. It's something I've only had here a few times over my 5 years of counting. And here's an eastern kingbird. You can see that white tail tip, and the photo kind of looks like it's up in a tree, but actually this is sort of some sticks that are sticking up out of the lake. They would probably normally be on land, but with the lake level so high, they look like they're just random sticks and branches sticking up out of the water. So it was actually only a foot or 2 above the bay. Next, we went to the Hawk Watch platform, and again, it was a beautiful sunny day, and some people made the joke, what are those white things in the sky? Because we actually had a few small clouds out in the distance today. And we had a favorable wind early on. It was kind of a southwesterly wind, but fairly light. So we did have the lake breeze kick in pretty early, but then it only stayed that way maybe an hour or so. And then a stronger northwesterly wind overpowered that, which isn't really a favorable wind, but at least it's better than that lake breeze. Brings the migrants a little closer to the platform. And then later in the day, the wind did shift back to northeast. But since it was the last day of the season, and a lot of people came out and we had ice cream and stuff, we were staying at the platform no matter what. Although Mike Tetlow did move inland to scout and help me spot a few birds at one point. Here we have some turkey vultures, and we had small to medium groups of turkey vultures migrating throughout the day. We had about 170 total, and actually that got flagged by eBird as being high for this time of year. So really good flight to end the season on. Here we have a juvenile broad-winged hawk. So it's the typical small buteo we're seeing this time of year. We're seeing the juvenile, so they're a little paler looking with the sun shining through them, and they're molting a lot of feathers. That's these gaps that you see in the wings and in the tail. From a distance, you're mainly going off the shape and the small size. They do smaller circles than something like a red tail. If you get a closer look, you would see that they're unmarked in the patagial area. They lack that distinct belly band that red tails have. And they have kind of a tail with small bands and then one thicker band right at the tip. Here we have an adult bald eagle, and he's a little messy looking. Looks like he's molting some feathers as well, especially here in the tail. Here's an immature bald eagle, and again, it's kind of a funny shape because it's missing some of the feathers here. So it looks like it's got these really long pointy feathers, and then it's random short feathers after that. So just a lot of birds molting this time of year. And in case you don't know, when we say molting, what we mean is the birds are dropping feathers and then growing in new ones. That process is called molting. Here's an osprey flying by with a fish, probably one of the local nesters. And we actually saw this quite a few times today, osprey coming over pretty low from behind us with fish. heading towards one of the cell phone towers where they nest in this area. Here's another juvenile broad-winged hawk. Again, we see that same shape. It's a small buteo, somewhat pointed wingtips because their wingtips are only made up of 4 feathers, 1, 2, 3, 4, compared to red tails and red shoulders where the wingtip is made up of 5 feathers, giving it a more rounded or squared off appearance. So little pointy wingtips for the broadwing, no dark patagial bars in this area, and it does not have a distinct belly band. It's kind of streaking that starts on the upper breast and extends down to that mid-breast belly area. And the juveniles do not have a dark trailing edge to the wing, and the tail has thin bands and then one thicker band at the tip. Here's another immature bald eagle, and we had a pretty good bald eagle flight today with 22 migrating bald eagles. And to celebrate the last day of the season, the local Cooper's hawk put on a show chasing a turkey vulture. Here's a topside view of the Cooper's hawk chasing the turkey vulture. This photo shows a good size comparison between the two birds. And the Cooper's hawk seemed pretty angry about the whole thing. Here's another osprey coming over low with a fish. And here's another immature bald eagle, and this is one of the whiter ones, a lot of white on the underside of the body as well as throughout the wings. And here's another osprey, and this one has a decent sized fish. Today was the last day of the season, and we had a good number of people come out to say goodbye. And the volunteers and visitors are such a big part of what makes the Braddock Bay Hawk Watch a special place to be in the spring. And the usual tradition is to have ice cream and popsicles on the last day of the season, courtesy of Dana Ford of Braddock Bay Raptor Research. So it was a perfect day for some cold treats because it was pretty warm and sunny today. And I chose to go with some popsicles. And taking a look at the eBird list at the Charlotte Pier, we had 16 species, and the only shorebird was a killdeer, and there weren't any rare or even uncommon gulls, just ringbilled and herring. Kim and I parked near Manitou Beach Preserve, and we walk in through there to the West Spit, and as we were walking through, we were immediately hearing those trumpeter swans calling. And from the West Spit, we were able to see those trumpeter swans, and we had a total of 47 species, including 3 first-of-years, as I mentioned earlier. Out at the end, we heard yellow-throated vireo, which is a species we've been trying to track down. So really nice to finally clean that one up and get it on the last day of the season. And on the way out, we also we ran into someone who had just heard least bittern calling, and we knew that people had been reporting them there. And so we stopped and we listened, and actually we saw it fly across in front of us, got a very brief look at it, and then it started calling again. So again, that was another species that we've really been trying to track down. So really nice to get that on the last day of the season as well. And from the Hawk Watch today, we had 48 species, and we had 1 new species for the season from there, which was yellow-billed cuckoo. And we have 2 species of cuckoo that migrate through this area and are fairly common throughout the eastern U.S., and that's black-billed cuckoo and yellow-billed cuckoo. And usually they're later migrants, so towards the end of May into early June. But it just seems like there haven't been that many around yet this year. A lot of people are saying, where are the cuckoos at? So we were glad to finally track down at least 1 species of cuckoo. Taking a look at the HawkCount report for our migrant raptor totals, today we had 170 turkey vultures, 22 bald eagles, 3 northern harriers, 1 Cooper's hawk, 132 broad-winged hawks, and 8 red-tailed hawks, for a total of 336 migrating raptors. And pending a final review of all the data to make sure we didn't mess up anywhere, that brings the final May total to 13,570, and the final season total to 50,395 migrating raptors. As I already mentioned, the new species for the season were trumpeter swan, yellow-throated vireo, least bittern, and yellow-billed cuckoo. And the forecast for tomorrow is that I'm heading home to Pennsylvania, but first I have a few thank yous to say. So thank you to Dana Ford and Braddock Bay Raptor Research for allowing me to come back and count raptors for the past 3 months. It's my favorite thing in the world to do, and I think we all had a lot of fun and a very successful season this year. Thank you to all of the other Hawk Watch volunteers and visitors that make it such a special place to be. If it was just me out there by myself collecting the data, it wouldn't be anywhere near as fun. Having people around and the excitement and the energy that brings helping people get life birds and just seeing really cool birds together. That's what makes hawk watching such a special activity. And a special thanks to Kim Steininger for leaving the mild winter of Delaware and coming up to cold and snowy Rochester, New York for 3 months. She's one of the best Hawkwatch helpers you could ask for, and she really put in a lot of effort this spring, not just assisting with the Hawkwatch, but getting up early every day to go birding. So thank you, Kim. And last but not least, thank you, the viewer of all of my YouTube videos, for coming along with me on this journey and letting me really express my passion for hawk watching and raptors and birding in general. I've had a lot of people come up to me and tell me they've learned a lot from watching my videos, but I've also learned a lot from creating the videos and really getting to go through and review each day and look at the photos individually and just sort of get to relive the day by making the videos every evening. You may be wondering what's next for me. I don't really have a good plan for the summer yet. I'm going to go back home to Pennsylvania and kind of figure things out from there. I'm sure I'll do a lot of birding, but there's also a lot of other hobbies and interests that I have that I may explore at that point. And Shelley from the Hawkwatch has really been pushing me to look into getting my PhD, so you never know what might happen. And in the fall, from September through November, you can come visit me and Kim at the Ashland Hawkwatch in northern Delaware. And for the last time this season, from Lyco Birds, this is David Brown. Thanks for watching.